Wu Xiaoqi, who had detected the highest level of mixed spiritual roots, was accepted as an outer disciple by the Tianhe Sect, a third-tier sect in the cultivation of immortals. Before Wu Xiaoqi could learn many immortal techniques, his sect was defeated by other sections. Returning to my hometown, I didn't expect all the elders in the village to be slaughtered. Wu Xiaoqi, who was wandering in the world, was fortunate to have a deep fortune and finally launched a counterattack through numerous adventures. Leave behind a myth in the cultivation world that there is a unique path in the immortal realm, and that the divine path has been cut off and blessed by fate. The protagonist is optimistic, free from small details, timid and resilient in major events, and most importantly, has a thick skin. Reading the main text without looking at the introduction will definitely give you a different feeling. Chapter 1. Introduction. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Under a big tree in a village, an elderly man with white beard is telling a story to a group of yellow-haired children. Legend. In ancient times, heaven and earth were in chaos. After the chaos began to bloom, the heavens and earth were clear and turbid, transforming into 9 layers of heaven. The spiritual energy within the 9 heavens has been nurtured for billions of years, generating 2 races of gods and demons. Once nurtured, these 2 divine and demon clans were born with immense power, forming their own divine powers and boundless magical power. After the birth of thousands of races, the world is full of vitality and prosperity. Among all races, those with spirits absorb the spiritual energy of heaven and earth and evolve into demons. The divine race has the strongest magical power, following the rules of the Tao, guarding all races in the world and allowing them to grow and evolve freely. However, if anyone violates the laws of heaven and earth, they will be punished. The demon tribe feeds on 10,000 tribes, bewitching the world and causing constant wars among them. And the demon tribe mostly depends on the demon tribe, either scattered throughout the world, or assisting various tribes in their campaigns, or hiding in the mountains and rivers of ancient lakes. The demonic martial arts are evil and harm the harmony of heaven. The divine race wants to punish them on behalf of heaven, but the demonic race refuses to accept it. The bewitching demon tribe attacked the divine tribe together with them, and there were both those who followed the demon and those who followed the divine tribe among the 10,000 tribes. The first god-demon war broke out. Finally, billions of years ago, in another war between gods and demons, both sides exerted their utmost strength, causing the collapse of heaven and earth, and the downfall of all nations. The heavenly punishment has descended from the heaven and earth avenue, and all the great powers of the gods, demons, and demons have fallen. Yuzhong, the divine race is separated by the upper triple sky, the demon race is separated by the lower triple sky, and the demon race and the myriad races are scattered in the middle triple sky. Later, the human race that followed the divine race gradually developed, and some powerful individuals comprehended the laws of the heavenly way, created the method of cultivating immortals and cultivating qi, and participated in the creation and transformation. They were revered as immortals by the human race. Under the guidance of cultivators, the human race drives out the alien race into various small worlds, while the demon-slaying royal race does not reach the deep mountains and vast expanses. Dai Shen was in charge of several celestial realms, and from then on, the human race rose up in the middle triple heaven. However, if one wants to become a god, they are hindered by the barriers of heaven and earth, and cannot be achieved without great perseverance, wisdom, and great creation. Liao has become a god for billions of years. However, when drawing a circle in the heavenly way, one must leave a gap. In order to prevent the invasion of the demon tribe, the human race from one side of the world can join forces to summon the strength of the entire human race from this side of the world, and gather the essence of the world to set up 4 protective spiritual formations in the 4 directions of the human race's survival, to protect the human race. There is a vast sea in the east, using water as the formation and taking the 9 major spiritual veins of the world as the formation spirits, forming the shape of a green dragon to suppress the east, forming the eastern green dragon formation. There is a divine wood in the west, using wood as the formation and taking the 9 spiritual mountains of the world as the formation spirits, forming the shape of a fighting tiger, known as the Western White Tiger Formation. There is a divine fire in the south, using fire as the formation taking the 9 great spiritual fires of the world as the formation spirits, forming the shape of a mysterious sparrow, forming the southern vermilion sparrow formation. There is a heavenly moat in the north, using soil as the formation and taking the 9 spiritual creatures of the world as the spirit, forming the shape of a mysterious turtle, known as the northern Xuanwu formation. Divided by the sea, rivers, mountains, and streams, the world is divided into 5 continents. The eastern part is called Haihua Shenzhou, the southern part is called Lihua Shenzhou, the western part is called Kunling Shenzhou, the northern part is called Kanlu Shenzhou, and the central part is called Qinyun Shenzhou. Each continent also contains many continents. Since then, the human race has gradually lived a stable life under the protection of the 4 spiritual formations, and for billions of years, the world has changed. Ordinary people farm and raise silkworms, while those with spirits cultivate immortals, refine qi, and pursue divine paths. This story is passed down throughout the world, making it easy to cultivate immortality but difficult to become a god. Tianluo City is a large city located in the easternmost part of the Daliang Kingdom on the Haihua Shenzhou Zhejiang continent. Due to the presence of Tianhe Sect on the east Tianmen Mountain and Luo Shui Gate on the west Qingzhou Mountain, it is named after 2 major gates. It is said that the founding fathers of Tianhe Sect and Luo Shui Sect were originally brothers of the same sect, and they both joined the Tianze Immortal Sect, one of the 5 major immortal sects in the Zhejiang continent, to practice Taoism. Due to their outstanding talents, the 2 became disciples passed down by the sect leader. Later, due to their admiration for the younger junior sister, who was deeply in love with the older senior brother, the 2 were trapped in love and left the school to come here after the younger junior sister got married. They each created the Tianhe Sect and the Luo Shui Gate, and the later sects gathered to form a city, giving rise to the current Tianluo city. See Master. In a quiet room within the Tianhe Sect, a middle-aged cultivator with a jade-faced face and a blue robe bowed to an old cultivator sitting cross-legged on a couch. Xiao, what do you need? The old monk opened his eyes slightly and looked at the middle-aged monk. Report to the sect leader, 1 month from now will be the first day of the 7th month, which is the day of our Tianhe Sect's 10-year recruitment. I am here to ask the sect leader for your understanding of this recruitment. The middle-aged cultivator Xiao Gongjin's reply. Oh. The 10-year period has arrived again. Please inform the 6th elder and let him inform the leaders of each peak. This year, we will accept 50 disciples from the inner sect, 10 people from each peak, and choose from each peak ourselves. Those with insufficient talent will be handed over to the Foreign Affairs Hall for arrangement. The old monk raised his eyebrows and said slowly. Here. I'm going to inform Elder 6. The middle-aged cultivator bowed slightly and bowed with one hand, slowly turning around and exiting the quiet room. An hour later, I saw a paper crane flying out of the Tianhe Sect towards the direction of Tianluo City. The same scene also happened at the Luo Shui Gate. The next day, Tianluo City issued a summons to the small towns under its jurisdiction, and the city lords received the summons from Tianhe Sect and Luo Shui Gate. For a while, the post horses galloped along the way, spreading the news of the opening of the Tianhe Sect and the Luo Shui Gate to various villages and towns to recruit disciples. Chapter 2. North Woniu Village of Sunset City. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Drive, charge, Daniel, you charge forward from the left, blocking Wenfeng and Silly Chang. Dog Egg Debao, you 2 charge forward from the right, blocking the stone and dog leftover. Debao stabs the dog leftover in the thigh, and Air Egg cuts off all children and feet. Charge. Charge. At dusk. Under the jurisdiction of Tianluo City, there is a quaint small mountain village called Woniu Village located at the foot of Woniu Mountain to the north of Sunset City. On a small mound outside the village, a group of dirty children were crossing bamboo branches with their legs and holding homemade wooden knives and swords, imitating the way two armies fought on the battlefield. Stop, stop, stop. Stop fighting, Wu Xiaoqi, you're too ruthless, right? A chubby little boy around 11 or 12 years old, with both hands inserted into his waist, shouted to the child across from him who was about to stab his wooden sword in the face. Either let Daniel come to our side or stop playing. At this moment, the boy across from him, who was the most muscular and was called a bull, asked in a muffled voice. Why did you let me go to your side? We'll defeat you right away. Why? Because I am Zhao Tianfu. My father is a clan leader, and your family is growing our land, Daniel. Why do you think so? Xiao Pangdun tilted his head and said confidently. At this moment, the little boy who had just shouted and commanded blindly used his fingers to shout at little Pangdun. Zhao Tianfu, aren't you just playing tricks? I gave you all the strategist Wenfeng, but you still can't win. Now you still have to go to your side with a big bull, and you can't afford to lose. This little boy is also around 11 or 12 years old, with a delicate face, but a bit thin and weak. However, his eyes are full of cunning, and he looks like a thief. Just now my whole body is dirty, like a mud monkey. Wu Xiaoqi, what are you shouting? I'll just be fooling around. What's wrong? If it weren't for my dad seeing your poor mother and taking you in, you wouldn't have starved to death long ago. Xiao Pangdun Zhao Tianfu spoke loudly and even wiped his nose with his dirty little hands. Alright, stop making noise. It's all from the same village, what's the noise about? The little boy named Zhao Wenfeng, who was called a dog-headed military strategist by Wu Xiaoqi, advised him. If you don't play, then don't play anymore. It's getting late. By the way, Xiaofu, Xiaoqi, and Daniel, today I heard from my dad that in another month, the Tianhe Sect's once-in-a-decade opening ceremony for apprenticeship is about to begin. Are you ready to sign up for it? I have already registered for Wenfeng, and I will definitely go. My third uncle has sent a message to my father and has already registered for me. My third uncle is now the deputy steward of the outer gate of the Tianhe Sect. Zhao Tianfu looked at Zhao Wenfeng and replied, then turned his head to ask Zhao Tiniu. Daniel, are you going or not? I'll have my third uncle cover you up then. At this moment, the big Zhao Tiniu walked forward, wiped his sweat, and returned. I want to go, but I have to go back and ask my father. I don't know if my mother will let me go or not. I heard that I can't become an inner disciple of the Tianhe Sect. Even if I only stay as a laborer, I earn 2 taels of silver per month, which is much more than what my father earns from farming and hunting. Yeah. At this moment, Zhao Wenfeng took over the conversation. My father said that if he can pass the second level and become an outsider by chance, he will not only give 2 taels of silver per month, but also a spirit stone. I have never seen what a spirit stone looks like. When the children heard Zhao Wenfeng say this, their eyes lit up, as if small coins and spirit stones were flying around in front of them. Especially the little boy named Wu Xiaoqi is almost spitting out his saliva. Hurry up and ask Zhao Wenfeng. Wenfeng, Mr. Zhao really said that. With so much small money, if I could become an inner disciple, wouldn't my mother no longer have to work hard? After finishing speaking, he blinked at Zhao Wenfeng with 2 big eyes and made a face full of idiots. Of course it's true. Every year, the money my third uncle sends back to our family to show filial piety to my grandmother can buy more than 10 cows. Zhao Tianfu quickly snatched the conversation and said proudly, holding his chest in both hands. Then I must go, not for anything else, just for the endless small money, Wu Xiaoqi said with a determined expression. This world has always been managed by the Immortal Cultivation sect, so cultivators have a high reputation in the secular world. People are not unfamiliar with cultivators, and every child in the secular world has a dream of cultivating immortals. Brother, my mom called you to go home for dinner, but my dad said he wanted to beat you when he got home. It's already dark and I don't know how to go home. At this moment, a little girl in red clothes of 5 or 6 years old ran up and down from the village, with 2 braids tied on her head, shouting while running. When he ran to the crowd, panting heavily, he said to Wu Xiaoqi again. Xiaoqi, did Aunt Wu also ask you to go back quickly? The little girl in red is Zhao Tiniu's sister Xiao area, but she came to call Zhao Tiniu home for dinner. Tianluo and Wu Xiaoqi are neighbors, and they also call Wu Xiaoqi back. Zhao Tiniu's father is a good hunter who takes care of Wu Xiaoqi and his wife every time he catches a lot of prey. Let's go home for dinner. A group of children dispersed in a roar, and Zhao Tiniu and Wu Xiaoqi also ran towards the village holding Zhao area's small hands. Squeak. With a dilapidated wooden door pushed open, Wu Xiaoqi entered the courtyard. Wu Xiaoqi's family is a small courtyard with 3 dilapidated earthen houses by the village, originally the place where Zhao Tianfu raised livestock. 6 years ago, Wu Xiaoqi begged with his mother to Woniu village. The clan leader Zhao Nanqing saw that the 2 women were pitiful, so he took them in. Coincidentally, the livestock were also sold, so he vacated this small courtyard to take in Wu Xiaoqi and her mother as their residents. Wu Xiaoqi's mother, Aunt Wu, is very clever and skilled, especially in making delicate needlework. She usually helps the Zhao family make some needlework or cut some clothes for the villagers to support the mother and son's livelihood. Due to the simplicity and kindness of the villagers, she often helps to support the mother and son. Mother, I'm back. I'm starving to death. Wu Xiaoqi shouted towards the kitchen as soon as he entered the courtyard. I'm back, Xiaoqi. Hurry up and wash up. Mom will immediately bring out the rice. Wu Xiaoqi's mother responded in the kitchen. Okay mother. Wu Xiaoqi ran to the door of the house in a dilapidated earthenware basin, patted the soil on his body, and scooped out some water from the water tank. He quickly washed his hands and touched his face before running towards the house. Sitting at a wooden table that was about to fall apart, I saw a plate of pickled radish and a few roasted wild vegetable cakes on the table. Then Aunt Wu went to the table and sat down with 2 bowls of porridge, and said to Wu Xiaoqi. Eat quickly, you're starving. The porridge is cooked with coarse millet, and people can be seen when it is thin. Aunt Wu is a woman who is just over 30 years old. She is wearing a blue cloth dress, and although it has been patched with a few patches, it has been starched and washed very clean. A light blue floral handkerchief was draped over her head, with a vegetable-colored face and slightly white hair on her temples. However, she looked beautiful, probably also a gorgeous woman. Aunt Wu picked up a wild vegetable cake and handed it to Wu Xiaoqi. I ran out to play wildly again. I have finished all the homework assigned by Mr. Zhao today. Aunt Wu looked at Wu Xiaoqi with a hint of love in her eyes and said. I finished writing early and finished it in a private school. When I came back, I played with Daniel and Wenfeng for a while. Wu Xiaoqi took the cake and ate it, then replied. After speaking, he looked up at Aunt Wu and asked. Mom, I heard from Wenfeng and Zhao Tianfu today that in a month, it will be the day when Tianhe Sect opens its mountain gate to recruit disciples. They said that once you enter Tianhe Sect, you can only work as a laborer and earn 2 taels of silver per month. He picked up his bowl and drank a mouthful of porridge. If I could become an inner disciple and receive spiritual stones and silver every month, I would like to sign up and participate. If I can succeed, you don't have to work so hard anymore, Mom. Aunt Wu was taken aback at the words. Xiaoqi is really a filial child, but don't force yourself to cultivate immortality. Just learn some skills. Aunt Wu affectionately touched Wu Xiaoqi's little head. Don't worry, Mother. I will definitely join the sect and stay in the Tianhe Sect, earning endless small money, so that you can live a life without worrying about food and clothing. Wu Xiaoqi's eyes lit up as soon as he mentioned the small money, and he answered mischievously. After speaking, he inserted his waist with one hand and pointed to the sky with the other. Tianhe Sect, please keep my little money for me. You child, hurry up and finish breakfast and go to bed. Tomorrow, you have to go up the mountain to chop some firewood and send it to Mr. Xiao. Don't act recklessly here. Aunt Wu waved her hand and slapped Wu Xiaoqi's buttocks with a mix of laughter and laughter. Mr. Xiao is Zhao Wenfeng's father and the only private school teacher in Woniu village. Usually, more than 10 children, including Wu Xiaoqi and Zhao Tianfu, follow him to study and read. Mr. Xiao is a very kind person. Many children from poor families cannot afford tuition fees, so they let their families bear some firewood or take a few eggs to offset the tuition fees, neither giving nor giving. Alright, Mom, I'll go to bed now. I'll wash the dishes, and you should rest early too. After Wu Xiaoqi finished speaking, he got up and took out the finished dishes to wash before going back to the inner room to sleep. Aunt Wu went back to the room to watch the sensible little Qi fall asleep, and then picked up the unfinished clothes to sew. Silent all night. Chapter 3. The Story of a Wooden Knife. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. The next day, the east had just turned slightly white. Wu Xiaoqi packed up and went out to fetch a few buckets of water to fill the water tank at home. Picking up the only iron chopping knife at home, he picked up 2 wild vegetable pancakes from the table that had not been eaten yesterday and walked towards the Woniu mountain behind him. Woniu mountain, resembling a lying cow, is said to have been the site of the ancient battle between gods and demons, where a powerful deity with a head of a cow and a human body fell. After his death, his body transformed into Woniu mountain. There are many monsters in the deep forest of Woniu mountain, and the villagers only hunt small animals on the outskirts of the mountain, afraid to go deep into the forest. Wild flowers on the mountain. Don't pick them white, don't pick them. Wu Xiaoqi was singing an unknown tune and swayed 3 times to the outskirts of Woniu mountain. Looking up, I saw the mountains and peaks cascading with mist rising. On the outskirts of the mountain, there are lush trees, flowers, and wild grass everywhere. From time to time, rabbits and chickens appear, but they disappear when they see people. Wu Xiaoqi is still young and lacks strength. He just picks up some dead branches or chops down some small trees. In no time, I chopped a large bundle of firewood and tied it with a long vine. Wu Xiaoqi also felt a bit tired. Wu Xiaoqi found a wooden stake and wiped the sweat off his head with his sleeve, intending to sit down and rest before going down the mountain. At this moment, a little monkey jumped out of the forest and looked at Wu Xiaoqi with a mischievous expression. When Wu Xiaoqi was not paying attention, he grabbed the chopping stick next to him and ran away. This firewood knife is the only one in Wu Xiaoqi's mother and son's family. They rely on it to chop firewood for warmth, make a fire, and cook on weekdays. Today, it was stolen by a little monkey, and that's not bad. Wu Xiaoqi couldn't give up easily and got up to chase after the little furry monkey. That little monkey was also very mischievous. He didn't run away at once, jumping around on the tree not far from Wu Xiaoqi, and occasionally waving his firewood knife twice, as if deliberately teasing Wu Xiaoqi. You come and chase me. Wu Xiaoqi couldn't bear this anger, picking up some branches and stones while chasing and throwing them at the little monkey, cursing and cursing. Xiao monkey, quickly return the firewood knife to me. I'll see if I catch you and don't peel off your skin. I'll drink your monkey brain and eat it. This pursuit and escape kept running further and further, slowly entering the mountain. Unconsciously, he ran to the depths of Woniu mountain. I saw this little monkey running to the edge of a stream, thinking he was also tired from jumping. He lifted his firewood knife and threw it into the stream with a whoosh sound. With a swoop, he jumped onto a big tree branch and sat on the horizontal branch, making a funny face at Wu Xiaoqi, as if laughing at him. I won't play with you anymore. I threw away your firewood knife. What can you do with me? Damn it, I caught you, skinned you, and cut off your monkey tail. At this moment, Wu Xiaoqi was also tired and panting heavily, with one hand supporting his knee and the other pointing at the little monkey and cursing loudly. The little monkey ran out of firewood and swung around grabbing the branches, but suddenly disappeared without a trace. Wu Xiaoqi, who was only angry, could only stare angrily. I didn't catch the little monkey, but I can't do without the firewood knife. Wu Xiaoqi walked cautiously to the edge of the stream, only to see that the stream was clear and bottomed out. Although the water was turbulent, it was not very deep. I saw the firewood knife lying quietly at the bottom of the water. Wu Xiaoqi had no choice but to take off his shoes and clothes and slowly wade into the stream. Although the stream is not deep, it is very cold. The stones at the bottom of the water have been washed away for many years, and some even have moss, which is very slippery. Wu Xiaoqi moved step by step to the firewood knife. Just as he picked it up, he slipped and fell into the stream. The stream was flowing rapidly, and Wu Xiaoqi was young and weak. In a hurry, he couldn't stand up and could only drift down the mountain along the stream. The children in the village have been playing and running around since childhood, and Wu Xiaoqi is the king of children in the village. He is known for being mischievous and mischievous. The water quality of catching fish and touching shrimp is not bad either. Although I couldn't get up for a moment and didn't feel too flustered, I relaxed and floated on the water, but still tightly grasped the firewood knife in my hand. Ah, gudong, pa, with the sound of entering the water, the stream washed Wu Xiaoqi into a deep pool. Originally, the stream reached here as a cliff, forming a waterfall, but beneath this waterfall lies a deep pool. Although Wu Xiaoqi was momentarily thrown into a state of 7 meat and 8 vegetarian food, his survival instinct allowed him to emerge from the water. He quickly used both hands and feet, and swam towards the shore with his dog's paw. Fortunately, the place where it fell was not far offshore. When Wu Xiaoqi swam to the shore in a disheveled state and climbed onto the shore, he felt sore all over and no longer had any strength. Not caring about the stones on the shore, even the dog lying on all fours and panting is not as good. When Wu Xiaoqi was able to catch his breath and regain some strength, he finally had the mood to take a look at his injuries. I had several punctures on my arms and legs, but fortunately the wound was not deep, it was just a skin cut, and my body was bruised and bruised. Damn it, but I fell and died. Wu Xiaoqi stood up and couldn't help but grin in pain. At this moment, Wu Xiaoqi looked around and saw a deep valley surrounded by mountains on all sides, with lush trees in the valley. That pond has a radius of several miles, and the water is rippling with blue waves. Although it is extremely clear, it is deep and bottomless. High mountains stand on all sides, with several waterfalls flowing down from the mountains into it. Although the water keeps flowing in, the surface of the water does not rise, and I don't know where the water in this pond has gone. Damn it, damn dead monkey, it's killing me. Wu Xiaoqi was cursing and cursing, but he could only endure the pain and walk towards the edge of the cliff, looking for a way out to leave here. Wu Xiaoqi hobbled to the waterfall where he had fallen, holding the firewood knife that he had almost fallen to death and was reluctant to let go. He looked up. This peak is considered the shortest mountain around the valley, but it is also over 10 zhang high. It protrudes above and sinks inward below. As if someone had cut it from above with a sword from outside to inside, the mountain wall was steep. The waterfall formed by the stream roared down from above, resembling a water curtain hanging outside. At the foot of the mountain, there was a space of several meters in the waterfall. But trying to climb up from here is extremely difficult, just thinking about it. My mother. How could she go up here? Wu Xiaoqi couldn't help but sigh ominously. It's quite cool and clean here. Let's take a break and rest first, and then go look elsewhere to see if there are any good places to climb. Wu Xiaoqi was now exhausted and sore all over. He was once again a big-hearted person with a tall head when the sky collapsed. At this point, I won't think about how to go back. After finding a dry boulder, he lay down on all fours. During these half-days, chasing monkeys while chopping firewood and falling into the water had already exhausted Wu Xiaoqi's body and mind. After lying down, he fell asleep soundly. Chapter 4. All My Little Money. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Suddenly, two sharp eagle cries came from the sky. Wu Xiaoqi flipped over and sat up, lying on a large stone, secretly looking out from one side. But a huge golden eagle flew from the sky. This golden eagle has a snow-white head, electric eyes, and a pair of wings that stretch out several zhang. The sun shines brightly with golden light. Sharp beaks like rafters, iron claws like hooks. Diving down from the sky like a shield from the sun, a pair of iron claws opened and fiercely grabbed a small black hill on the opposite bank of the pond. Wow! Suddenly, the small hill twisted violently and lifted a huge black snake head. That's not a small hill, it's actually a blue and black python that's as thick as a giant tree, measuring tens of feet in length. I saw the black python coiled up in a snake formation, with its huge snake head held high, and the crimson snake letter in its mouth kept swallowing, making a hissing sound. A huge tail keeps swinging. As the golden eagle was about to catch the python's body, the huge snake tail of the python fiercely pulled towards the golden eagle. The golden eagle let out a sharp eagle cry, flapping its wings and soaring into the sky. The giant python's tail took a moment to strike the nearby mountain wall, causing its vines to break and debris to fly wildly. The bald golden eagle spread its wings in the air, spinning and diving down. The python turned its snake head and suddenly stood upright, spitting out a black mist at the golden eagle. The golden eagle's wings fanned wildly in the air, dispersing the black mist and rising again. At that moment, the golden eagle dared not attack rashly, and neither side could do anything about the other. The golden eagle kept circling and diving in the air, seeking opportunities. The black python rotates its snake head and constantly gazes at the golden eagle. Unexpectedly fell into a deadlock. The sun slowly slanted westward, and the snake head of the giant python slowly drooped, as if feeling a bit weak. I saw the white-headed golden eagle in the air suddenly diving down again while the python was weak, using its pointed beak like a rafter to peck straight at the snake's head. Pound! I saw the golden eagle's pointed beak fiercely insert into the snake's head, while its claws forcefully grasped 7 inches below the python's head. The python suffered from pain and turned its head to bite into the golden eagle's thigh, while its body twisted and coiled upwards, entangled with the golden eagle's body. 2 giant objects were rolling and flapping in the valley, causing sand and soil to fly in the air for a moment. The trees that were only hit were broken, and the gravel on the stone walls flew wildly. Wu Xiaoqi watched from behind the stone by the pond. Although he was usually very brave, he was so scared that he trembled all over and dared not look. At this moment, the smoke and dust from the 2 giant objects were rolling and the yellow sand was covering the sky, making it difficult to see clearly. Quietly and obediently, I scared the baby to death. This heartache is about to burst out. Wu Xiaoqi flashed back behind the boulder, patting his chest with both hands, his face turning white with fear. Suddenly hearing no movement, Wu Xiaoqi secretly leaned forward to look across the bank. The smoke and dust slowly dissipated, while the golden eagle and python lay motionless. Are they all dead? Wu Xiaoqi thought to himself. Isn't this a cheap deal, lousy? How many small coins are these 2 huge beasts worth? At the thought of selling a lot of small money, Wu Xiaoqi was actually afraid that it would be much less. But he didn't think about how his small body dragged away the 2 giant beasts. But asking him to go and check now, he really dares not. Anyway, I can't get out of this haunted place for now. I'll check it out tomorrow morning and take a good rest to recover today. Wu Xiaoqi reached out to touch the swollen area on his body, and couldn't help but let out a painful groan. At this point it was gradually getting dark and thick fog was growing outside, making it difficult to see clearly. It is now May, yellow, and June, and this valley is surrounded by mountains on all sides, which is very warm. Although Wu Xiaoqi is not wearing clothes, he does not feel too cold. Wu Xiaoqi returned to the back of the boulder and lay down, but couldn't sleep for a moment. Ah! Even if my mother hasn't seen me back yet, she doesn't know how anxious she should be in her heart. In his wild thoughts, Wu Xiaoqi also slowly fell asleep. Wu Xiaoqi suddenly woke up and sat up, sweating profusely from his head. But last night, Wu Xiaoqi dreamed that those two giant beasts were fighting, and the python swallowed Wu Xiaoqi in one gulp. Having a nightmare scared me awake. Goo 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 goo, Wu Xiaoqi couldn't help but touch his stomach as he heard a commotion in his stomach. I'm starving to death. I ate 2 wild vegetable pancakes yesterday morning, and now this 5 organs temple is going to rebel. Wu Xiaoqi slowly stood up. Hurry up and find some food to eat. Don't starve me to death without falling, that's what's wrong with Grandma's house. By the way, snake meat is delicious. Go and see those 2 big villains on the other side. Muttering in his mouth, Wu Xiaoqi bent down to pick up the precious firewood knife, holding the mentality that even death should not be a starving ghost. Walk along the edge of the pond towards the opposite bank. The strange rocks by the pond are rugged, making it difficult to walk. Wu Xiaoqi walked barefoot step by step, but it took him about 2 hours to reach the other side of the 10-mile journey. Wu Xiaoqi walked cautiously to a place not far from the fight between the 2 beasts, only to see that the 2 huge beasts remained motionless. The python's waist was like a giant wood, lying slightly taller than Wu Xiaoqi. He is over 10 zhang long, and his snake head is huge, like a small house. I wipe it, it's really big. If my dream yesterday was true, I probably would be enough to fill the gaps between the teeth of this big snake, Wu Xiaoqi exclaimed to himself. Approaching the python, I saw a huge blood hole pecked out of its head, almost detached from its body and only half connected to it. But he died so much that he couldn't die anymore. This place was covered in blood stains and filled with a pungent smell of blood, which almost made Wu Xiaoqi vomit. Fortunately, his stomach was empty and he couldn't even vomit if he wanted to. Wu Xiaoqi endured the discomfort in his stomach and walked around the python. When he saw the eagle lying several meters away from the python, most of his golden feathers fell off and one leg was missing. His stomach was rotten and his internal organs flowed all over the ground. Nausea, Wu Xiaoqi couldn't help but feel a wave of retching. What a damn disaster. This is selling a lot less money. Wu Xiaoqi retched and shook his head, feeling sorry for his small money. He turned around and looked back at the python. Let's cut some snake meat to fill our stomachs. Picking up his family's firewood knife and chopping it at the python, he heard a crisp sound of dang. The python had no white mark on its body, which made Wu Xiaoqi's little hand ache. Darling, what a hard skin. Wu Xiaoqi couldn't help but exclaim in surprise. It seems that this python's body cannot be chopped down anymore. If it wants to eat meat, it needs to be relocated. Wu Xiaoqi had no choice but to pinch his nose and walk towards the point where the snake's head and neck broke, and cut a piece of snake meat inside the snake's neck with a wooden knife. Wu Xiaoqi took the snake meat and walked to the edge of the pond to clean it with pool water, while also washing his face. There's no fire here. Do you want to learn from that wild beast to eat raw? Wu Xiaoqi couldn't help but make things difficult again. There was another roar coming from Goryulu's stomach. Die, die. At least you're also a ghost who's full of dead. Wu Xiaoqi closed his eyes and opened his mouth, swallowing a piece of snake meat into his stomach. The taste is good. Wu Xiaoqi couldn't help but suddenly open his eyes. A burst of wild eating devoured the cut snake meat. After finishing the snake meat, Wu Xiaoqi felt warm all over, as if he had inexhaustible strength. What a great tonic. It's so full. Wu Xiaoqi didn't know that the black python was about to turn into a dragon. As the saying goes, a snake will turn into a python for 100 years, and a dragon will turn into a python for 1,000 years. However, today, he was caught by Wu Xiaoqi due to his defeat in the fight with the golden eagle. The flesh and blood of the python is not just a great tonic. If cultivators eat it, they can probably achieve decades of cultivation out of thin air. Wu Xiaoqi had eaten and drank enough, and his strength had greatly increased. He looked around, hoping to find a way out of the valley. Wu Xiaoqi walked to the foot of the mountain to carefully search, and suddenly found a cave that was more than one person tall on the mountain wall not far from where the two beasts were fighting. Chapter 5. Immortal Relics. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The cave was originally very hidden, but at this moment, the rocks next to the entrance of the cave had cracked in multiple places. It was probably because the two beasts fought fiercely and cleared all the vines and blocked boulders outside the cave before exposing it. Wu Xiaoqi was originally a young man with a strong curiosity, so he slowly explored the cave. It's noon now, and the reflection in the cave can be seen clearly. Looking inward at the entrance of the cave, one can see that there seems to be a faint presence of people living inside, unlike ordinary caves. Walking into the entrance of the mountain, Wu Xiaoqi shouted inside. "Is anyone at home?" Without anyone, I went in. Upon hearing no answer, Wu Xiaoqi cautiously walked towards the depths of the cave. Entering the cave more than 10 feet deep, I saw the cave suddenly enlarge, forming a circular hall several feet in size. There is a stone table and a stone stool in the hall, but they are covered in dust and should have been unused for a long time. At the end of the hall, there is a corridor with a stone chamber inside, and there is a faint white light shining through the chamber. Wu Xiaoqi walked along the corridor to the stone chamber. "Mother!" With a strange cry, Wu Xiaoqi suddenly took a few steps back. It turned out that on a stone bed in the stone chamber, there was a dead bone sitting cross-legged, emitting a shimmering white light. The two black skulls looked straight at Wu Xiaoqi. "Don't be surprised if there are any monsters, don't be surprised if there are any monsters. Infinite Heavenly Sovereign, blessed by gods and immortals." Wu Xiaoqi bowed with both hands and arched his hands at the skeleton. After a while, there was no movement. Wu Xiaoqi boldly walked over to the withered bone and touched its arm with his hand. With a loud crash, the dry bones that were originally sitting suddenly fell apart, which frightened Wu Xiaoqi a lot. Wu Xiaoqi calmed down and carefully examined the stone chamber. Inside, there was nothing more than a withered bone on this stone bed. Looking up at the roof of the room, there was a bead embedded on it, emitting a faint yellow halo. "Wow, is it the night pearl? If you get rich, you can't exchange it for a few thousand taels of silver." Wu Xiaoqi thought that all the silver saliva had flowed out, but he was also afraid. He turned around and ran out of the cave. I found a wooden stick that the python and the golden eagle had fought and broken, and then carried it into the cave. Entering the cave again, Wu Xiaoqi stood up the wooden stick, propped it against the roof of the room, and climbed up along the stick. He used the family inheritance firewood knife to pry at Yimingzhu. Finally, with Wu Xiaoqi's unremitting efforts, it took a lot of effort to pry the bead into his hand. I really made a fortune this time. Wu Xiaoqi stood down and raised the bead to look left and right in his eyes. Then he muttered to the withered bone. "Alas! This time the boy took your beads, it's not in vain. I'll help you settle down. The gods bless you with a good family in the afterlife." Although Wu Xiaoqi has a very stubborn nature, Aunt Wu's family education is very strict, and she is still a kind-hearted person in her heart. Wu Xiaoqi placed the beads on the stone bed, turned around and walked out of the cave. He used a wooden knife to dig a pit not far from the edge of the pond and found some large leaves to cushion the pit. I went to the foot of the mountain and cut down some vines, preparing to tie up the dead bones and bring them to the pit, so that the owner of the dead bones could bury them in peace. Wu Xiaoqi arrived at the stone chamber and picked up and tied up the scattered bones on the stone bed, carrying them out of the cave. Go to the edge of the pit and arrange the dead bones one by one, and find some gravel to fill the pit into a tomb. Wu Xiaoqi bowed to the tomb. Suddenly, a glimmer of white light shone directly into Wu Xiaoqi's eyebrows from the tomb. At the same time, a middle-aged man's voice rang out in Wu Xiaoqi's mind. Young generation, don't panic. I am the owner of this remains. You have placed my remains, and I have also given you a portion of my fortune. In the center of that stone bed, under my remains, there is a hidden compartment that contains some of my personal belongings. I am now giving them to you as a token of gratitude for burying me. But it was a wisp of nostalgia from the owner of the remains, who sent some personal belongings to Wu Xiaoqi in gratitude for burying the bones. It's true that good people have good karma. The owner of this remains is actually a deity, and there is even a chance for immortality waiting for me. Wu Xiaoqi secretly felt delighted in his heart. He bowed again to the tomb and said with his mouth, "Thank you, Senior." At this moment, Wu Xiaoqi ran happily towards the cave, eager to find that opportunity. Upon arriving at the stone chamber, picking up the bead and shining it on the stone bed, a small dark grid was truly discovered beneath the original remains. Wu Xiaoqi opened the dark box and saw 3 jade pendants, a black iron ring, and a small short sword placed inside. Apart from them, there was nothing else. Wu Xiaoqi picked up the small short sword first, looking dim and unremarkable. It seems that my firewood knife is not as sharp as mine, it is also a possession of the Immortal family. Put down the short sword and pick up a jade pendant, and take it with warmth. A paragraph suddenly appeared in my mind. Chaos is determined by nature. This should be the practice of cultivating immortals' mouths. Wu Xiaoqi picked up another jade pendant and a paragraph of appreciation of all things record automatically appeared in his mind. What is this book of appreciation for all things? Wu Xiaoqi couldn't understand either. He picked up the 3rd jade pendant and held it in his hand. Suddenly, a middle-aged cultivator with a white robe and long beard appeared in his mind, and the cultivator said to himself, "I am Xiao Yuehan, the eldest disciple of the Qianyuan Immortal sect in Haihua Shenzhou, and also the strongest guardian immortal of the Qin dynasty in Haihua Shenzhou and Haiqiong continent. When the head of the Qianyuan Immortal sect, Yuqing Immortal, passed away and was released, he was summoned by the sect to take over the position of head. However, on his way back to the sect, he was killed by a villain. My fellow disciples Chao Zhe, Zhong Nandao, and Su Buyu joined forces with Qin Yongfu, the grand protector of the Qin dynasty, and led 100 scattered cultivators to besiege. Although they accidentally killed dozens of people, they still suffered serious injuries and fled, escaping all the way to this place. Although I have achieved great perfection in the cultivation of the golden elixir, unfortunately, the golden elixir has been shattered, and the elixirs have been exhausted. Serious injuries are difficult to cure, so I will leave my relics for fate. The chaos creation decision and appreciation of all things record was obtained from my master's exploration of an ancient relic in the endless demon sea of Haihua Shenzhou before his passing. You can use your divine mind to view and cultivate the 7 layers of qi refining. There is also a cauldron from that place. Due to the short period of time before I could cultivate, I believe those people who besieged me are also closely related to the relics gains. The sword is named Silver Wolf and is a lower-grade spiritual artifact that I used back then. The ring is my storage treasure, containing one of my sect's basic skills, the Qianyuan Shangqing decision, and 2 foundation pills. I have lifted the ban on my treasure, and your drop of blood can open it on its own. However, the damage is severe and the magic power is not sufficient. I hope that if you succeed in learning in the future, you can avenge me. I am extremely grateful. Then the figure of the middle-aged cultivator faded away. But the middle-aged cultivator left a divine idea in the jade pendant and entrusted his last wish to those who were destined. The golden core cultivator of Haihua Shenzhou. Where is Haihua Shenzhou? Wu Xiaoqi doesn't know much about it anymore. I became interested in the inconspicuous short sword and the black ring, but these two seemingly inconspicuous things were actually a magic weapon and a spiritual artifact. I can't believe it. Let's take a look at what's in this ring first. Wu Xiaoqi picked up a firewood knife and cut his finger, squeezing out a few drops of blood on the ring. The blood stains disappeared from the ring, but there was no reaction at all. Is it because there isn't enough blood? Wu Xiaoqi had to cut his arm again and shed a lot of blood on the ring. A flash of light flashed, and a huge space measuring tens of zhang square suddenly appeared in my mind. A thin silk book was placed in the center of the space, and the cover read the resolution of the Qianyuan Emperor. Next to it lay a round stove with 2 ears and 3 legs, as well as a small square box. Taking out the box and opening the lid, there were 2 pills inside. I think it's what middle-aged cultivators call the foundation building pill. There are still hundreds of sparkling blue stones in the corner of the space, but there is nothing else left. Wu Xiaoqi placed several jade pendants in the ring, scanned it again, and with a flash of light, the space disappeared again. It seems that this storage ring needs magic to be used properly. Otherwise, using it once would drain so much blood, wouldn't it be like using it multiple times to drain all my blood? Wu Xiaoqi thought to himself with even greater pain in his hand. No matter what, I made a fortune this time. Wu Xiaoqi smiled happily and couldn't close his mouth. Picking up the short sword again, it looked like it was secretly stabbed and didn't have any spiritual weapon-like appearance. By the way, isn't that snake skin very tough? Give this sword a try to sharpen the snake skin. Wu Xiaoqi said he would do it, put the ring on his finger, and with one hand holding a short sword, ran towards the python. Chapter 6. Xiao Bai and Xiao Jin. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Running to the side of the python, Wu Xiaoqi picked up his short sword and poked the snake skin. With a loud snort, the sword hilt disappeared. This is a good thing. It's really a thief. Wu Xiaoqi drew his short sword and couldn't help but chuckle foolishly. This snake skin is so tough, making a leather armor is quite good. Since Wu Xiaoqi fell into the deep pool, he has been wearing a small underwear to cover his body. Seeing that the short sword can easily cut open the snake skin, he wanted to quickly put on the whole outfit. It's not a problem to be so naked. Picking up a short sword, he peeled off a large piece of snake skin from the python and dug a hole in the middle. Wu Xiaoqi dug his head into the hole and found a tough green vine to tie around his waist, giving rise to a simple leather armor. This big snake and that big bird are both good things. I don't know if they can be put into the ring and taken away. The ring has such a large space, so it should be able to fit. It's just that this big snake is probably not easy to release. I'll cut it off with a sword and divide it into several pieces to release it easily. After thinking about it, Wu Xiaoqi started to kill the snake. The short sword was incredibly sharp, and it wasn't too difficult to cut this python. When Wu Xiaoqi swung his sword and cut into a bump in the middle of the python's body, suddenly another golden eagle's body was exposed from the python's belly. The golden eagle in this belly is much smaller in size than the golden eagle fighting against this python. No wonder that big bird and this big snake fought endlessly. It turned out that this big black snake had eaten someone else's wife. Wu Xiaoqi said to the golden eagle, "Mr. and Mrs. Big Bird, I have peeled and dismembered this stinky snake to help you seek revenge. You are also dead, so just exchange the body for a small sum of money for me." Wu Xiaoqi said sage words in his mouth and calculated a small amount of money in his heart. After dividing the python into several sections, I used my short sword to shine on my arm and swipe again to open the space of the ring. I took a photo of the golden eagle, and in a flash, the golden eagle's body appeared in the space of the ring. Then, several python corpses and the large golden eagle were placed one by one in the ring. I swiped my arm again in the middle, causing Wu Xiaoqi to grin in pain. Leave only a large piece of snake meat to satisfy hunger and wrap around the stomach. After finishing all of this, Wu Xiaoqi also became a tired dog. Returning to the stone table inside the cave, he sat down and took out a piece of snake meat to eat, feeling an endless force all over his body. We need to quickly find the way out of the valley. It's been 2 days now, and I don't know how anxious my mother is. Although Wu Xiaoqi has always had a big heart, he is secretly anxious when he thinks of Aunt Wu. Fortunately, with the support of snake meat, I didn't feel tired, so I stood up again and walked out of the cave to find the way out of the valley. I slowly searched along the foot of the mountain at the entrance of the Yishur cave. During the day, I was hungry and ate some snake meat. When I was thirsty, I drank some pool water. At night, when I had nothing to do, I would flip through the Qianyuan Shangqing Ju left for him by Xiao Yuehan. But at the first age, they are young and inexperienced, with no one to guide them, and they don't see much fame. 2 more days have passed in the blink of an eye, and I still haven't found a suitable place to climb. In recent days, Wu Xiaoqi has been eating snake meat every day, and his body has grown a few inches taller, and his body has noticeably become much healthier. Another day, Wu Xiaoqi found a mountain peak. Oh, the mountain walls here are not as steep as other peaks, so you should be able to climb up. This mountain peak is only 1 peak away from where he fell, but it is the highest peak around the valley. A few days ago, when he saw the towering mountain from afar, Wu Xiaoqi gave up and didn't search carefully. I searched several times these days but couldn't find a way out, so I had to come to this highest peak again to try my luck. To my surprise, he really discovered a mountain slope that he could climb. Although this mountain wall is not as difficult to climb as other peaks, it is also very steep. It's not easy to climb to the top of the mountain. Return to the mountain cave to nourish your spirit, and set off from here early tomorrow morning. Thinking of escaping from the valley, Wu Xiaoqi was also very happy. I went to bed early when I returned to the cave. There was nothing to say overnight. The next morning, Wu Xiaoqi got up early to tidy up, put on snake skin armor, and ate a big piece of snake meat. After eating and drinking, he held the silver wolf short sword in his hand and came to the tomb by the pond. After bowing a few times to the tomb, he walked towards the mountain peak. At the foot of the mountain, Wu Xiaoqi grabbed the green vine and climbed up. The mountain wall was steep with several smooth spots, and Wu Xiaoqi almost fell off. Fortunately, the silver wolf short sword was sharp and inserted into the mountain wall at a critical moment to prevent it from falling. After climbing for 2 or 3 hours, Wu Xiaoqi had already reached most of the mountain peak. Seeing a protruding stone platform above his head that was very flat, Wu Xiaoqi climbed up and sat down to rest. Sitting on the stone platform, Wu Xiaoqi pulled another piece of snake meat to fill his stomach. Taking advantage of the break, Wu Xiaoqi began to look around. Oh, what's the smell? It smells so good. Suddenly, with a gust of mountain wind blowing by, Wu Xiaoqi could smell a strange fragrance in his nose. Wu Xiaoqi flipped over and sat up, lying on the stone platform, searching everywhere, only to see a huge eagle's nest not far from the left side of the platform. There is a strange little grass on the stone wall next to the eagle's nest, with 2 bright red fruits at the top of the grass. When the mountain wind blows, the grass sways gently with the wind, and a faint fragrance drifts in. Isn't this any fairy fruit? Wu Xiaoqi climbed slowly from the stone platform towards the location of the eagle's nest, with a mentality of not letting go of Ning Sha Qiu. With the help of a small tree growing on the stone wall, Wu Xiaoqi jumped into the eagle's nest by swinging, and only then did he grow a mouthful of turbid air. I saw that there were actually 2 huge bird eggs in the eagle's nest. Wu Xiaoqi has been eating snake meat and drinking pond water every day these days. He smelled 2 red fruits that exuded a strange fragrance, and his saliva flowed all over the ground. He reached out to pick the 2 red fruits and stuffed them into his mouth. The red fruit entered the throat and turned into agar, flowing into the abdomen. Wu Xiaoqi only felt a hot breath rising from his lower abdomen, and suddenly felt a pang in his abdomen. Ah! It hurts me so much. Wu Xiaoqi only felt the pain in his abdomen like a knife stirring, and for a moment, he was covered in cold sweat and couldn't help but roll on the ground. Fortunately, he didn't roll off the cliff inside the eagle nest. Wu Xiaoqi, who was only in pain, groaned repeatedly and fainted for a moment. Wu Xiaoqi didn't know that these two red fruits were prefecture-level spiritual medicines, named 7-star vermilion fruit. The name comes from the fact that the leaves are divided into 7 pieces and the fruit is as red as vermilion. These 7-star red fruits take 60 years to ripen, and once picked, the leaves immediately wither. They have the function of cutting bones and washing marrow, and are the main medicine for refining the wash marrow pill. There must be spiritual beasts guarding the treasures of heaven and earth, and the eagle's nest is the nest of 2 golden eagles who died in the valley. The golden eagle couple has been guarding the 7-star Zhu fruit for decades, and it looks like it's about to mature. But they both died in the battle with the black python, giving Wu Xiaoqi a white advantage. Fortunately, Wu Xiaoqi has been eating the meat of that giant python every day these days, and his qi and blood are extremely strong, so he can withstand the medicinal power of the 7-star vermilion fruit. Wu Xiaoqi, who had been unconscious all day and night, slowly opened his eyes. I only felt soreness all over my body, and there was a foul smell on my body. Next to me, there were 2 fluffy little chicks pecking at Xiaoqi's thighs with their beaks. What a damn stink! Am I poisoned? I didn't die, I survived a disaster, and there must be good fortune. Hey, where did these 2 little guys come from? Wu Xiaoqi struggled to sit up and, with a super optimistic spirit, looked at the 2 little chicks. Chapter 7. Going Home. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Wu Xiaoqi picked up 2 cute little ones with his hands, and saw them also looking at Wu Xiaoqi with curious eyes. 2 little eagles chirped incessantly in their mouths. I saw that both of these chicks had white heads and gray bodies, with a strand of yellow hair mixed with the white hair on one of their heads. Look at these 2 young eagles, both have white heads. It's probably the children of that pair of giant eagles. Wu Xiaoqi secretly instructed. Looking at the 2 young birds chirping incessantly, he said to the 2 young birds. Are you hatched from those 2 eggs? Are you hungry? I'll feed you some meat, okay? Wu Xiaoqi took out the snake meat and cut it into small pieces with a short sword to feed the 2 little ones. Seeing the 2 little ones eating happily, he was also very happy in his heart. We can all be considered sharing hardships together. If you 2 stay here, you'll probably starve to death. Why don't you go back with me? I'll give you 2 a name. Raise your finger to the young eagle with white hair sandwiched between yellow hair on its head. The one with yellow hair is called Xiao Jin. Pointing at the young eagle with only white hair on its head, he said. Just call yourself Xiao Bai. Wu Xiaoqi's naming momentum is very bold and imposing. After Wu Xiaoqi finished speaking, regardless of whether Ernyao understood or agreed, he nodded and secretly laughed. My name sounds very nice. Wu Xiaoqi got up and found a short sword, cut some green vines, and woven a small basket from the branches inside the eagle's nest. Put the 2 young birds in the basket and carry them on their backs, then start climbing towards the top of the mountain. Fortunately, the distance from here to the mountaintop was not too high, and at dusk, Wu Xiaoqi finally climbed to the mountaintop. Finally out. There's no such thing as a perfect person. Mom, wait for me to come home. Wu Xiaoqi stood at the mountaintop and shouted twice at the foot of the mountain, venting his bad luck. Wu Xiaoqi ran towards the top of the mountain as he approached. Climb to the tree to rest at night, rush on at dawn, eat some snake meat when hungry, drink mountain springs when thirsty, and tease Xiao Bai and Xiao Jin when tired. Finally, 2 days later, I returned to the mountain peak behind Woniu village. It had been 7 days since Wu Xiaoqi left home. As he approached home, Wu Xiaoqi felt very happy. Sing out of tune tunes while running. The flowers in the mountains are red, and the girls in the mountains are pretty. When the red flowers spread all over the mountain, I will hold the girls. Wu Xiaoqi became more and more excited as he sang, and his heart was filled with the joy of coming home soon. Ow! Suddenly heard a bear roar. But in the distance, a black bear stood up and stared at Wu Xiaoqi. The black bear stood up almost 10 feet tall, with crimson eyes. Its two front paws patted its chest and then fell to the ground, charging towards Wu Xiaoqi. Mother! Wu Xiaoqi was so scared that he ran away. What the hell are you chasing me for? Wu Xiaoqi was cursing while fleeing, and when he saw a big tree, he circled around. The black bear was chasing after him fiercely, and he was about to catch up with Wu Xiaoqi. Whoosh! A sound of arrows echoed, but a sharp arrow hit the black bear's eye. Ow! The black bear was even more ferocious when it felt pain, and it pounced towards Wu Xiaoqi. Seeing this, Wu Xiaoqi pounced on the ground and dodged to the side. Whoosh! Another sharp arrow shot, hitting the black bear in another eye. The black bear was shot in both eyes and couldn't see anything, with its limbs flapping wildly. Fortunately, Wu Xiaoqi was agile and repeatedly avoided. Xiaoqi, come over to my side quickly. Wu Xiaoqi crawled and ran to the side of the speaker. Uncle Xiao. Wu Xiaoqi looked up and saw that it was Zhao Tinyu's father, Zhao Hu. Zhao Hu asked Wu Xiaoqi to hide behind the big tree on the side first. Xiaoqi, you step aside first and wait until I kill this black bear. After speaking, he drew a sharp arrow from the arrow pot behind him, strung his bow, and aimed at the cluster of crescent white hair on the black bear's chest to shoot the arrow, hitting the bear's heart. The black bear hit 3 arrows in a row, and finally howled and became weaker, gradually falling to the ground without moving. Uncle Xiao, why are you here? Wu Xiaoqi saw that the black bear was dead and asked Zhao Tinyu's father. Uncle Xiao also saw that the black bear was no longer moving before answering. Xiaoqi, since you went missing while chopping firewood in the mountains, your mother has been frantically searching for you and has been unable to find you. She has been crying all day. Your mother asks me and the villagers to come to the back mountain to find you every day, but we can't find you for several consecutive days. Everyone says you've been eaten by wild beasts and can't come back. Dinyo and I couldn't bear to see your mother crying every day, so we came to the back mountain again today to find you. Fortunately, you are still alive. Uncle Xiao, let's hurry back. I miss my mother too. Wu Xiaoqi's eyes also turned red. It was a child who had just turned 10 and tears streamed down as he spoke. Okay, we'll go back now. You wait for me to bring that black bear. Uncle Xiao walked towards the exhausted black bear while speaking. Where are my little white and little gold? Wu Xiaoqi only then saw that the 2 young birds in the basket were missing. I thought it was because I was chased by the black bear and ran too fast, throwing the 2 chicks out. I quickly searched for the black bear's place as well. Jojo, so you guys fell here. Next to a big tree not far from the body of the black bear, 2 unharmed young birds were singing in confusion. We have once again experienced life and death together. Wu Xiaoqi painfully picked up the 2 little ones and placed them in the basket. Xiaoqi, I'm going home. Uncle Xiao grabbed the black bear's 2 front paws with both hands and carried it behind him, walking quickly towards Wu Xiaoqi, shouting at him as he walked. Okay, Uncle Xiao, you're really amazing. Wu Xiaoqi watched as Uncle Xiao carried a huge black bear weighing 400 to 500 pounds and still walked briskly. I couldn't help but marvel repeatedly. Alright, let's talk about it when we get home. Your mother doesn't know how happy she is to see you safe and sound. Hurry all the way. Wu Xiaoqi stopped speaking and chased Uncle Xiao towards the village. Chapter 8. Common Knowledge of Cultivating Immortals. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Arriving at the doorstep, I looked at the dilapidated wooden door. Wu Xiaoqi unconsciously ran a few steps into the courtyard with tears in his eyes. Wu Xiaoqi shouted loudly to Aunt Wu. Mother, mother, I'm back. Upon hearing the shout, the wooden door was pushed open with a loud bang. Aunt Wu walked out of the room, looking at Wu Xiaoqi running over with an incredulous expression on her face. Hurry up a few steps and embrace Wu Xiaoqi. Xiaoqi, Xiaoqi, you have come back, my Xiaoqi. Wu Xiaoqi also hugged Aunt Wu and burst into tears. Just come back, just come back. Aunt Wu touched Wu Xiaoqi's little head and tears of heartache flowed down her face. Wu's sister-in-law, Xiaoqi has arrived home, so we won't disturb you anymore. Let's go home first. Xiaoqi, Xiaoqi, I'll come and see you tomorrow. But when Zhao Tinyu heard the commotion, he ran over and was dragged away by Uncle Wu. Thank you, Brother Zhao. How about sitting in the courtyard for a while? Look, I've been so excited lately and haven't seen you guys. Aunt Wu only then realized that there were still 2 people in the courtyard. Hurriedly released, Wu Xiaoqi apologized repeatedly to Zhao Tinyu and the other 2. No, no, you 2 have a good conversation. I'll have Iron Bull and his wife come over tomorrow to see Xiaoqi. Uncle Zhao finished speaking and pulled Zhao Tinyu back home. At this moment, Wu Xiaoqi placed his backpack inside the house, and Aunt Wu only took a closer look at Wu Xiaoqi when she entered the door. Seeing Wu Xiaoqi dressed in snake skin, with green vines tied around his waist, his small face and body dirty and emitting a foul odor, I couldn't help but feel another wave of heartache. I touched Wu Xiaoqi's little face. Xiaoqi, I'll boil you some hot water first, and you wash us both before we talk properly. Wu Xiaoqi had a 7-star red fruit eclipse since then, and a layer of black sludge was discharged from his body. Because I was rushing home, I had 2 days of camping and was chased by the black bear as I rolled and crawled on the ground. His body was covered in sludge, with a foul smell. Okay, mother. Wu Xiaoqi looked at Aunt Wu's swollen eyes and a more haggard face, and obediently nodded softly in agreement. How comfortable. Wu Xiaoqi sat still in the wooden bucket placed in the yard, soaking in a hot bath. After cleaning all the sludge on my body, I saw that my previously thin body had become much more refined and muscular, and my arms had become much stronger and more robust. After removing the sludge from the body, the skin appears exceptionally fair and firm. Just several scars on the back, arms, and legs. After washing it out, it showed a particularly fresh and elegant spirit. Wu Xiaoqi wiped his body clean and put on the clothes and shoes that Aunt Wu had prepared for him. Pushing the door into the room, I pulled Aunt Wu and explained in detail what had happened in the past few days to her from beginning to end. Speaking of Wu Xiaoqi falling into the pool and seeing 2 beasts fighting, Aunt Wu couldn't help but tightly grip her clothes. Upon hearing that Wu Xiaoqi had received the golden elixir cultivator immortal fate, Aunt Wu was secretly pleased in her heart. When she heard that Wu Xiaoqi almost died from swallowing zhugua, Aunt Wu almost crumpled her collar. After listening to Wu Xiaoqi's recent experiences, Aunt Wu took Wu Xiaoqi's small hand and said seriously to him. Xiaoqi, what has happened to you in the past few days must not be revealed to outsiders, especially when it comes to your relationship with the immortal. You should know the truth that the person is innocent and guilty. You must have a heart of harming others, but you must have a heart of defense. If you want to sign up to go to the river sect that day, this matter must not be disclosed at all. Aunt Wu paused and continued. In the future, even your closest people won't talk much about it. Tomorrow, Aunt Xiao and Iron Bull will come and see you. If you ask, all you can say is that you chased a monkey and fell off a cliff, trapped in the valley for a few days before escaping, and found Xiao Bai and Xiao Jin on the way. Don't talk much about anything else. Got it, Mom. Wu Xiaoqi obediently replied to Aunt Wu. Early the next morning. Wu Xiaoqi had just finished washing up when he heard Zhao Tinyu's voice. Xiaoqi, Xiaoqi, my mother and I have come to see you. I heard Arya shouting again. Xiaoqi, I've come to see you too. Wu Xiaoqi opened the door and saw that Aunt Zhao had brought Zhao Tinyu and Zhao Arya to his house, with a lump of bear meat in her hand. "I'm back, Xiaoqi. I've been suffering a lot these days, haven't I?" Aunt Xiao saw Wu Xiaoqi greeting him. After touching Wu Xiaoqi's little head, he carried the meat into the room and pulled Aunt Wu to speak. "Brother Xiaoqi, where have you been these past few days? You've been driving Aunt Wu crazy, and I've been crying and looking for you for a long time." As soon as Zhao Area saw Wu Xiaoqi, she grabbed her sleeve and began to ask questions. Zhao Tiniu remained silent beside him, just giggling foolishly as he watched the little girl pursue Wu Xiaoqi. Wu Xiaoqi followed Aunt Wu's words and said to the two of them as she taught them. Zhao Area didn't understand much about other things, but she was very interested in finding two little eagles, Xiao Bai and Xiao Jin. Clamoring to go see Xiao Jin and Xiao Bai. Wu Xiaoqi had no choice but to enter the room and hold Xiao Bai and Xiao Jin out. I also cut a few small pieces of bear meat brought by Aunt Xiao and asked Area to feed them. "Xiaoqi, why don't you go to the private school with Daniel? It's been a few days since you went to Mr. Zhao's place, and you've finished all your homework." Aunt Wu shouted at Wu Xiaoqi inside the house. "Okay, Mom, I'll go right away." After finishing speaking, Wu Xiaoqi pulled Zhao Tiniu and walked away, then turned around and shouted. "Mother, Aunt Zhao, Area is accompanying Xiao Bai and Xiao Jin outside. Can you help me take care of them?" "Alright, Mom knows. You guys go quickly." Aunt Wu agreed inside the house. Area was also attracted by Xiao Bai and Xiao Jin, teasing the two little eagles and giggling. She didn't have time to talk to Wu Xiaoqi and Zhao Tiniu. Wu Xiaoqi and Zhao Tiniu came to the private school. This private school is located at Zhao Wenfeng's home. The two of them entered the private school and bowed to Mr. Zhao. "Sir, I'm back." Mr. Zhao is the most respected person by Wu Xiaoqi in the village, and Aunt Wu often teaches Wu Xiaoqi. "Master, you must also respect Mr. Zhao." "Well, just come back. Go sit down." Mr. Zhao remained as serious as usual, just silently staring at Wu Xiaoqi and letting them sit back in their original seats. After a while, Zhao Wenfeng and other children from the village came to the private school one after another. Everyone came to ask questions in surprise when they saw Wu Xiaoqi. "Xiaoqi, where have you been these days?" They were all asking Wu Xiaoqi where he had gone in the past few days and why he had so many days to come back. Wu Xiaoqi had no choice but to repeat what he had told Zhao Tiniu in the morning. "Everyone sit still. Class is over, no noise. I only listened to Mr. Zhao's dignified words." A group of children rushed back to their seats with a clatter, sitting upright and staring at Mr. Zhao. July 15th is the day of the Tianhe Sect's apprenticeship ceremony. I heard that a few of you plan to register for the Tianhe Sect, and this time Wenfeng will also come. From today on, we won't talk about books anymore. In the next few days, I will tell you some common knowledge about cultivating immortals in the Zhejiang continent, so that you don't know anything and go there as a joke, leaving us in the Woniu village. Chapter 9. Departure from Tianluo City. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The cultivators of the Zhejiang continent, have 4 great realms. The Qi refining realm is divided into 4 sub-realms and 12 levels. The first to third level of Qi refining is the initial level of Qi refining in the first sub-realm, the fourth to sixth level is the middle level of Qi refining in the second sub-realm, the seventh to ninth level is the high level of Qi refining in the third sub-realm, and breaking through 10 levels is the great perfection of Qi refining. Above the foundation is the foundation, which is also divided into 4 layers. The early stage, middle stage, late stage, and full foundation. Above the foundation, there is also the Golden Core realm and the Yuaning realm. Mr. Zhao stopped at this point and took a sip of the tea from several cups on the table. Continuing with the discussion. Building a foundation here is the most difficult because only if you succeed can you be considered a true cultivator. Once you succeed in building a foundation, you can increase your lifespan by 200 years. In our Zitsang continent, you can already be called a master. If you can form a golden elixir, you will be a top expert. The golden elixir realm can increase your lifespan by 500 years, while the Yuaning realm is the peak character in our Zitsang continent. The lifespan can increase by 1,000 years, but there are very few Yuaning realm experts in our Zitsang continent. Mr. Xiao picked up the tea cup and took a sip of the tea. It's just that the journey of cultivating immortality has been bumpy and difficult. Entering the path of cultivating immortality requires great opportunities to grow, such as killing and seizing treasures, slaying demons and eliminating demons, and engaging in intrigues. You can only experience the hardships on your own. There are 5 major immortal sects in our Zitsang continent, namely Tsangming Immortal Sect, Tianze Immortal Sect, Kaya Zen Temple, Inviting Moon Valley, and Spirit Beast Mountain. The Tianhe Sect you are going to join this time is a branch of Tianze Immortal Sect. Although the 5 great immortal schools are nominally under the jurisdiction of the Zitsang continent, in reality, the Tsangming Immortal School stands out alone. A group of monks at the Kaya Zen Temple only know how to eat, fast, and recite Buddhism, while the invitation to the Moon Valley is mostly done by female cultivators who do not pay much attention to ordinary matters. Since the fall of the old sect leader of Tianze Immortal Sect, no one in the sect has broken through the Yuanying realm, and there are no great cultivators from the Yuanying realm sitting here. These years have been declining year by year. Only the Spirit Beast Mountain has been imposing in recent years, with a faint tendency to compete with the Tsangming Immortal Sect. Mr. Xiao continued to talk about the famous figures and some small sects in the Zitsang continent that he knew, and his nagging day came to an end. These days, Wu Xiaoqi has been going to school every day, listening to Mr. Zhao's explanation of common knowledge about cultivating immortality, and has also gained a slight understanding of it. Returning home and reading the book left by Xiao Yuehan to him, I no longer felt obscure and difficult to understand. Instead, I gained some insights. When tired, tease Xiao Bai and Xiao Jin, take some snake meat for them to eat, and also eat some to nourish their energy. But Aunt Wu refused to eat anything, probably because she was very afraid of snake meat. Today is June 20th, and there are 10 more days. On the first day of July, it is the time for the acceptance ceremony of Tianhe Sect and Luo Shui Gate. A few days ago, Mr. Zhao explained to everyone as much detail as possible the stories and common sense of cultivating immortality that he knew and heard. Tomorrow is the 21st, and you are about to leave for Tianhe Sect. After school earlier today, you can go home and prepare, and also say goodbye to your parents. Mr. Zhao raised his head and slowly placed his hands on several tables. I have one last word to say to you, you are all children of my Woniu village. When you arrive there, you should work together and support each other, and not be bullied. Alright, let's drop out of school. Goodbye, sir. A group of children bowed and saluted Mr. Zhao. After Mr. Zhao left, he also scattered and ran towards his home. Mom, I'm back. Wu Xiaoqi called out to Aunt Wu when he got home. Why did Xiaoqi leave school so early today? Aunt Wu is helping Xiaoqi make new clothes when she hears the sound and puts down her work. Mr. Zhao explained that we are going to Tianhe Sect on the day of departure, so we will leave school early today. Aunt Wu was stunned upon hearing this and muttered to herself. Are you leaving tomorrow? Mother, tomorrow I will go to Tianhe Sect to practice immortal family magic. Once I enter the sect, you won't have to work hard anymore. You can live a good life now, and I will take you flying in the sky every day. Wu Xiaoqi's face was full of longing. After all, becoming a fairy and being able to fly in the sky is a temptation that every child cannot resist. Okay, when you come back and live a good life with your mother. Aunt Wu had a smile on her face, but there was endless loneliness and worry hidden in her eyes. Alright, Xiaoqi Nyang will make this outfit for you first and prepare some food for you on the way. Okay mother, I'll go feed Xiao Bai and Xiao Jin. Wu Xiaoqi turned back to the firewood room to see Xiao Bai and Xiao Jin. In just over 10 days, Xiao Bai and Xiao Jin have grown up quite a bit. It may be related to daily consumption of snake meat. Now the feathers on my body are no longer a single gray color, they have turned much yellow, and a few hard feathers have grown on my wings. Seeing Wu Xiaoqi coming over and flapping his little wings, he ran to Wu Xiaoqi's side and kept chirping at him. Wu Xiaoqi teased the two little ones and said to them, "Tomorrow we are going to learn the method of cultivating immortals. Would you like to go with me?" The two little guys were just chirping incessantly. Wu Xiaoqi chattered for a while, then cut some snake meat with the silver wolf short sword and fed it to the two young birds. He turned around and went back to the room to accompany his mother. One night is fleeting. The next morning, at the entrance of Woniu village, Wu Xiaoqi and Zhao Wenfeng, Zhao Tiniu, and Zhao Tianfu, a total of 7 children, stood next to a carriage. There are 3 other children, 1 female and 2 male, one named Zhao Erden and the other named Zhao Tianyu. Zhao Tianyu is a child of Zhao Tianfu's cousin's family. The only girl is the daughter of the Wang widow's family in the village, and she is also a person with a foreign surname named Rong Ruoxue. Clan leader Zhao Nanqing stood opposite them, with the parents and family of 7 children behind him. Zhao Nanqing watched the crying crowd. "Children, the journey from here to Tianluo city is far away. Let's set off today. When you arrive there, you must watch and help each other. Remember that you are all children from Woniu village." He raised his hand and patted Zhao Wenfeng's shoulder again. "Wenfeng, you 7 are the oldest and have the most stable personality. When you arrive at the Tianhe Sect, you should take care of them more. And there are also your 3rd uncle who can take care of them." After speaking, he turned around and looked at Zhao Tiniu's father Zhao Hu. "Zhao Hu, you and Zhao Biao are escorting the children on the road, be careful along the way. If that child is not chosen, you two must bring the child back to the village safely. Good clan leader, Biaozi and I will definitely safely escort the children to Tianluo city." Zhao Hu answered with a silly smile. "All right, children, get in the car. Wishing you all the opportunity to join the sect and achieve success. Give us some face in Woniu village and have a smooth journey." Zhao Nanqing said and bowed to several people. A few children got on the big car one by one, then pulled the car window and said goodbye to their loved ones in tears. Wu Xiaoqi looked at Aunt Wu and shouted loudly, "Mother, please go back. The child will definitely worship the sect and come back to bring you happiness." After shouting, he waved his little hand fiercely. Zhao Hu and the others also bowed to the crowd who were seeing them off. "Please go back, fellow villagers. The 2 of us will definitely live up to our expectations." After finishing speaking, he got on the carriage and drove away. The group of people who bid farewell only watched as the carriage gradually faded away and turned into small black spots before silently dispersing one by one. Chapter 10. Yunbu Yao. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The carriage wobbled along the way and had been walking continuously for 7 or 8 days. Because they are all part of Tianluo city, although the journey was bumpy, fortunately it was very safe all the way. When they first left the village, the children were all in tears and silent. After all, it's their first time leaving their hometown relatives. But these past few days, it was the child's nature, and the novelty outside restored their playful nature. "Xiaoqi, tell us your story of saving Xiao Bai and Xiao Jin again. I really like Xiao Bai and Xiao Jin." Zhao Erden was also bored and wanted to hear stories, so he pestered Wu Xiaoqi. "I've listened to everything a few times, and then I heard Xiaoqi boasting." Zhao Tianfu muttered half dead. "Let's talk. Anyway, it's all so boring." Zhao Tiniu took over the conversation. "Let's talk about it." Zhao Wenfeng also agreed to listen again. Rong Ruoxue, who has never been very talkative, also showed a hopeful expression. Wu Xiaoqi spoke with a smug expression on his face. "Okay. I'll tell you again. At that time, I was washed up into the valley along the stream, and I fainted. When I opened my eyes, I saw a big eagle and a big snake fighting. What a fight! The sky and the earth were dark, it was so miserable. Later, it took me a lot of effort to find a path out of the valley. I had to go through countless hardships to climb halfway up the mountain, only to see an eagle's nest and find Xiao Bai and Xiao Jin. Wu Xiaoqi began his performance with a fragrant tongue, lotus flowers blooming, and hands dancing, but he kept in mind Aunt Wu's confession and kept silent about the fate of immortals. Children, come down and rest for some air. There's a small river over there, everyone go wash their faces and move around. While Wu Xiaoqi was playing recklessly, he heard Uncle Xiao calling them to come down and rest. After the carriage stopped, a few people jumped off and saw it parked in a grove of willows. There is a small river flowing across the road not far from the willow grove. A gentle breeze brushed past, green willows fluttered, and a hint of coolness rushed towards them. The few of them couldn't help but stretch lazily. I'm so tired. My mother's waist is almost bent. Uncle Xiao, we still have a few days to go to Tianluo city. Wu Xiaoqi asked Uncle Xiao. Tomorrow at sunset, you should be able to see Tianluo city. Tell you, Tianluo city is the largest city here. I had a visit with the patriarch earlier. There are all kinds of things to sell in it, including noodles, tomatoes on sticks, rouge and water powder. We still have 1 day's rest time there, and Tianfu's third uncle should also follow us. We can take you around and buy some rouge for your mother and sisters. I will bring it back to you. Uncle Xiao chuckled and told everyone. Really, a few little guys asked in unison. That would be great. Without Uncle Xiao, I want to buy another silk handkerchief for my mother. Her silk handkerchief is old and of little color. Wu Xiaoqi smiled and looked at Zhao Hu. Some. Although each clan leader has supported you with 100 yuan this time, you can't buy anything here. You still need to save some money and go to the river over there to wash your face for a while. We still need to hurry up. Zhao Hu answered the crowd with a silly smile on his face. A few boys heard a buzzing bee and ran towards the river across the road, while Rong Ruoxue shyly followed behind and walked towards the river. Rong Ruoxue, be careful. Wu Xiaoqi exclaimed in surprise. I saw a luxurious carriage driven by 2 horses galloping towards me, and the carriage was about to collide with Rong Ruoxue, who was walking slowly behind. Wu Xiaoqi didn't have time to think about anything else, so he turned around and rushed towards Rong Ruoxue, pulling her and rolling towards the roadside. At this moment, Uncle Xiao also ran quickly to see the horse's head, grabbed the horse's head with both hands, and shouted with both arms, unexpectedly pulling the carriage to a stop. The galloping horse stood up and stomped on the ground with both hooves, but almost stepped on Wu Xiaoqi and his companions who were rolling on the ground. Wu Xiaoqi lifted Rong Ruoxue, whose face turned pale with fear, and cursed away at a young man in brocade driving the car. Fuck you, ferry board. How did you rush the carriage? I didn't see anyone on the road. Running so fast, I'm in a hurry to go home and reincarnate. The young man in brocade quickly jumped off the carriage shaft and clasped his fists with a pale face. I'm sorry, but my young master was mischievous. He just set off firecrackers on the road and startled the horse. He couldn't hold it for a moment and collided with a few people. I really can't apologize. Wu Xiaoqi angrily retorted. I almost bumped into someone, just say, I'm sorry and it's over. While speaking, I saw a girl emerge from the car with the car curtain lifted. I saw that the girl was about 12 or 13 years old, with bright eyes and white teeth, and a stunning appearance. She was dressed in white clothes like snow, with her head tied in a double hairpin and a golden step inserted. Her appearance was dignified and elegant. After getting off the car, he said a blessing to Uncle Xiao and lightly opened his mouth. Thank you very much for stopping the startled horse, uncle. My younger brother has a mischievous temperament. He startled the horse and collided with this little sister. I, Yunbu Yao, apologize to a few of you here. Then he turned around and instructed the young man in brocade. Pinyin, give some silver to this little sister to calm down Uncle in Mississippi. But he paid no attention to Wu Xiaoqi. Turn around and shout at the carriage. Yun Shuyu, come down and apologize to the little sister and uncle. Wu Xiaoqi looked at the girl dressed in gorgeous and elegant attire. He had seen such a girl in the village and felt embarrassed to curse at her for a moment. Rong Ruoxue next to her looked timidly at the girl, tightly gripping Wu Xiaoqi's sleeve with both hands. Zhao Biao, Zhao Wenfeng, and others also gathered around at this moment, and several boys were staring blankly at the girl. How beautiful! Zhao Tianfu also wiped the saliva from the corner of his mouth. At this moment, the car curtain was lifted again and an 8 or 9-year-old boy, who was also born with red lips and white teeth, dressed in a luxurious robe, got out of the car. After getting off the car, he reluctantly arched his hand at the timid Rong Ruoxue and muttered. I'm sorry. Zhao Hu, seeing the two of them dressed and behaving in such a way, knew that they were either wealthy or noble. With the aim of going out and causing less trouble, he approached them and said. As long as you're okay, you two don't need to be too polite. A sound of horse hooves could be heard from afar, and 7 or 8 galloping horses also rushed to this place. Shulu Lv's horse hissed and a group of powerful guards jumped off the horse. The middle-aged leader bowed to the girl with a bow. Miss, young master is frightened. The girl in white, Yunbu Yao, raised her head and said to the middle-aged man. Uncle Li, the two of us are fine. We just startled the little sister, Pinyin, go give the silver to that little sister. We still need to continue our journey. After speaking, he gave another blessing to Zhao Hufu. Thank you, uncle. We are going to Tianluo City to attend the Luo Shui Gates apprenticeship ceremony and we are still in a hurry to make our way. I apologize to you once again. After finishing speaking, he slowly got on the carriage. The young man in brocade took out a bag of silver and threw it to Zhao Hu, then carried the young man Yun Fuyu onto the carriage. Zhao Hu took the silver bag and signaled everyone to clear the way, watching the carriage slowly set off under the protection of a group of powerful guards. Watching the carriage go far, Zhao Hu quickly signaled everyone to hurry to the river to wash up and hurry on their way. After everyone finished washing up, they returned and also drove the carriage towards Tianluo City.